The sun was just rising over the jagged mountains of planet Zithera, painting the sky with streaks of pink and gold. The air shimmered with heat in the valleys, and the strange glowing plants swayed gently in the soft morning breeze. Lena, a 6-year-old girl with bright eyes and untamed hair, was already awake. She loved mornings on Zithera. Every day felt like an adventure waiting to happen. She had been exploring the area near her family's research outpost since before the sun had fully risen. Lena's parents were scientists studying alien wildlife, but Lena didn't need notes or instruments to explore. She just needed curiosity and courage. Today, she wandered a little farther than usual, her small boots crunching on the rocky soil. The forest around her glowed faintly with strange blue plants that seemed to hum when touched. Lena paused for a moment, listening. She loved the sounds of Zithera, the chirps, the whispers of the glowing trees, and the soft rustle of unknown creatures in the distance. Suddenly, she heard a strange sound behind a cluster of tall, twisting rocks, a soft whimper like a cry for help. Lena's heart beat faster. Most creatures on Zithera were shy or dangerous. Her parents always warned her to be careful, but Lena couldn't ignore a cry. She crept closer, keeping low to the ground. As she peeked around a rock, she saw something that made her eyes widen. There, lying in a patch of soft moss, was a tiny creature. Its scales shimmered in every color of the rainbow, but they were scratched and dusty. Its wings, though small, twitched nervously. Its eyes, large and golden, blinked at her with a mixture of fear and curiosity. It looked dangerous. Its claws were sharp, and its teeth peeked from its small mouth. But Lena didn't see a monster. She only saw something scared and alone. "Hello?" she said softly, kneeling a little. "Are you okay?" The creature froze, staring at her. It made a small growl, almost a whisper, like it was trying to say, "Stay away." Lena noticed how small it was, no bigger than a large puppy, and somehow she felt a warmth in her chest. "You're cute," she whispered. It was the first thing that came to her mind. The dragon baby tilted its head, almost as if it didn't understand. But something about the word cute seemed to calm it. The growl faded into a small hiss. Lena smiled. "Do you want some food?" she asked, carefully opening her backpack. She had a small pack of alien berries her parents had given her. Lena held one out. "Just a little?" The creature sniffed the air. It was hesitant but hungry. Slowly it stepped forward, tiny claws clicking on the stones. Lena stayed still, her heart beating fast. She had never been this close to a Zithera dragon, even a baby. Finally, it nibbled the berry from her hand. Lena giggled softly. "See? I'm not going to hurt you." The dragon ate more, sitting closer and closer to her. Soon, it curled up next to Lena's boots, its shimmering tail wrapped around itself. Lena ran her small hand gently over its scales. They were surprisingly soft in some places, rough in others. "You can stay with me," she said quietly. The dragon blinked and made a soft, purring sound that made Lena giggle. Hours passed, and Lena didn't notice the sun climbing higher. She played gently with the dragon, tossing small rocks and showing it how to catch them. The dragon was clumsy at first, tripping over its tiny legs, but it was learning quickly. Lena clapped when it succeeded, and the dragon's wings fluttered with excitement. When the sun reached its highest point, Lena realized she should probably head back to the outpost. "Come on," she said. "Let's go home." The dragon hesitated. It had been cautious all morning, but now, instead of running away, it followed her. Lena laughed. "You're brave, and kind of funny, too." She led it back through the glowing forest, careful to avoid the sharp rocks and quicksand pits her parents had warned her about. Birds, or what she thought were birds, chirped and circled overhead, their colors almost matching the dragon's scales. Lena felt like she was walking through a rainbow. When they reached the research outpost, her parents were outside examining equipment. They froze when they saw Lena, followed by the dragon baby. "Lena," her mother called, worry in her voice. "What is that? Is it safe?" Lena knelt beside the dragon. "I found him. He was hurt. I fed him. He's cute." Her father stepped closer, inspecting the creature carefully. "It's a Zitharan hatchling. Amazing! I've never seen one this close before." The dragon seemed to sense their caution. It hissed softly, curling closer to Lena. Lena hugged it tightly. "Don't worry, he's with me. He's not dangerous if you're kind to him." Her parents exchanged glances. They were surprised. Lena was so young, yet she had managed something they thought was impossible. The dragon, which many scientists considered too dangerous to approach, had trusted her. "Lena," her father said finally, "you have a way with him. Be careful, okay? Zithara dragons are small now, but they grow fast." "I will," Lena promised. She looked down at the dragon. "Right, little one? We're friends now." The dragon blinked, then let out a soft, happy roar. Lena laughed. She decided to name him Flare because his scales glowed like fire when he moved. Flare nuzzled her hand, and Lena felt proud. She had made a friend who was rare, maybe even magical. As evening came, Lena and Flare stayed outside the outpost. The sky turned deep purple, and stars began to appear. Flare's scales glimmered under the starlight. Lena told him stories about her life, about her parents, and about the world beyond the mountains. Though Flare could not speak, he listened, tilting his head or making small chirps as if he understood every word. Later, Lena's parents set up a small area for Flare with soft mats, water, and food. He curled up in a corner, but instead of sleeping far away from Lena, he stayed close, resting his head near her small feet. Lena felt safe knowing he would protect her, and Flare seemed content knowing she was there. That night, Lena lay in bed and thought about the day. She had found something wonderful, something no one else had seen. Flare, the tiny dragon, wasn't just a creature to study. He was her friend, and he trusted her completely. Lena drifted off to sleep with a smile, unaware that this was only the beginning of a very special journey. Somewhere outside, under the glowing trees and shimmering rocks, Flare watched over her. His golden eyes reflected the starlight, and his small wings twitched as if he was dreaming. Lena's kindness had earned him trust, and he had made a silent promise. He would never leave her side. And so a 6-year-old girl and a dangerous yet tiny dragon began a bond that would change their lives and the world around them forever. The next morning, Lena woke to the soft glow of Zithara's twin suns rising over the jagged mountains. The light bathed the outpost in gold and pink, making the trees and rocks shimmer as if the world itself was alive. Lena stretched and yawned, remembering that her new friend, Flare, was still curled up near her bed. She gently reached out, and Flare stirred, opening his golden eyes and blinking sleepily. "Good morning, Flare," Lena whispered. "Did you sleep well?" Flare let out a small chirp, nuzzling her hand. Lena laughed softly. "I think that means yes." She helped him stretch his tiny wings, and the scales on his back shimmered brighter than usual. Lena loved how his colors changed with his mood, red when excited, blue when calm, gold when happy. Her parents were already awake, busy preparing equipment for a day of research. They were amazed at how Lena and Flare had formed a bond in such a short time. While scientists had studied Zitharan dragons for decades, few had ever approached one safely. Lena had done it naturally, with nothing but kindness and courage. "Good morning, Lena," her mother said, smiling warmly. "And good morning, little Flare. He's adapting well." Her father nodded, carefully observing the tiny dragon. "Incredible. he said. "He's showing signs of intelligence even as a hatchling. You've done something remarkable, Lena." Lena beamed. She loved learning about the dragons and teaching Flare little things every day. Today, she had decided, would be about play and learning. She packed a small bag with some berries, soft moss, and a few shiny stones she thought Flare might like. They stepped outside, and the alien forest greeted them with its usual chorus of strange sounds. Lena and Flare wandered near the sparkling river that twisted through the valley, glowing faintly in the morning light. Lena tossed a berry toward Flare, who caught it mid-air with a tiny flap of his wings. "Good job!" Lena cheered. Flare chirped happily, hopping around with excitement. His tiny claws barely made a sound on the soft moss. Lena noticed that every time she praised him, his colors brightened, turning a cheerful gold. Hours passed, and the bond between Lena and Flare grew stronger. Flare began to follow her wherever she went, mimicking her movements, tilting his head when she spoke, and even trying to imitate her gestures. Lena found herself laughing at the little dragon's antics. Sometimes he tripped over his own tail or flapped his wings too early, landing softly in the moss. By midday, the scientists at the outpost had joined Lena, observing Flare closely. They wanted to study him, but Lena felt protective. "Don't scare him," she told them gently. "He's not just a dragon. He's my friend." The scientists nodded, impressed at Lena's wisdom. Even the most experienced researchers realized that the way she had gained Flare's trust was far beyond what instruments or cages could do. "Look at that," her father whispered to her mother. "He's starting to understand her gestures." "He's learning." Lena didn't need her parents' approval. She was too busy teaching Flare something new. She held out a shiny stone and rolled it gently along the ground. Flare watched closely, then flicked it back with his small claw. Lena clapped her hands. "Exactly! That's amazing, Flare!" As the day went on, the tiny dragon began exploring more. He hopped over rocks, tested his wings with small flaps, and even tried chasing a small, glowing insect. Lena followed him, laughing and pointing out things in the environment. Every time she spoke, Flare listened, tilting his head or making small noises. Lena started to feel that he understood more than she had imagined. Around mid-afternoon, a sudden rustle in the bushes caught Lena's attention. Flare stiffened instantly, curling closer to her. Lena had noticed this before. Flare could sense danger. She held out a hand, and his wings twitched as he looked at the movement. A small alien creature darted out from the bushes. It was a harmless herbivore, but Flare let out a tiny growl, warning Lena to stay back. Lena smiled. "You're protective, aren't you?" she said softly. Flare chirped happily, brushing his head against her hand. Lena realized something important. Flare wasn't just cute or playful. He was loyal, and he cared about her safety. The thought made her heart swell. Even though he was small now, she knew he would one day grow to be strong enough to defend her in dangerous situations. As the suns began to lower in the sky, Lena and Flare returned to the outpost. Lena's parents had prepared a small area for Flare with soft mats, water, and food. But Flare didn't go far from Lena. Instead, he curled up next to her as she sat on the ground, brushing his scales gently. "Flare, you're amazing," Lena whispered. "I'm glad I found you." The tiny dragon chirped softly, his wings fluttering. He seemed to understand her completely, showing affection in ways Lena had never seen before. She realized that their bond was not just about friendship, it was about trust, respect, and understanding between two very different beings. As night fell, the outpost lights twinkled against the darkening sky. Lena's parents were inside, busy with data and instruments, but Lena stayed outside with Flare. She pointed to the stars and told him stories about the planets, the mountains, and the creatures she had seen. Flare listened, occasionally making soft chirps or flapping his wings in excitement. The more Lena spoke, the more Flare seemed to understand. Sometimes he would imitate her gestures, nodding his head or moving his tiny wings as if he was following her story. Lena laughed. "You're learning so fast, Flare. One day we might even be able to talk to each other completely." Suddenly, a bright flash lit up the horizon. Lena squinted and saw a group of strange ships descending toward the outpost. Her heart skipped a beat. "Flare, do you see that?" she whispered. Flare's eyes glowed bright gold as he flapped his wings nervously, sensing the newcomers. The ships landed, kicking up dust and glowing spores from the ground. A group of explorers stepped out wearing protective suits and carrying equipment. Lena's parents rushed to meet them, but Lena noticed that their expressions were tense. These visitors were not like the usual researchers. One of the explorers pointed at Flare. "Is that a Zitharan hatchling? Incredible!" he exclaimed. "We've been looking for one like that for years." Lena instinctively stepped in front of Flare. "He's my friend," she said firmly. "He's not for anyone to take." The explorers hesitated, surprised by the small girl's courage. Flare hissed softly, his wings flaring slightly. Lena held out a hand to calm him. "It's okay, Flare. We'll be safe." Her parents spoke calmly to the explorers, explaining that Flare was young and needed care, not capture. The explorers listened, but Lena could tell they were tempted by the idea of taking him. She hugged Flare tightly. "You won't leave my side, will you?" Lena whispered. Flare nuzzled her cheek in response. It was a silent promise. They would face whatever challenges came together. The visitors left after a long discussion, but the day had changed everything. Lena realized that Flare's life was precious and that they needed to be careful, but she also knew that their bond was stronger than fear or danger. Flare had chosen her, and she had chosen him. That night, Lena sat outside again, holding Flare close. The sky was filled with stars, and the twin moons of Zithara glowed softly above. Lena felt safe, knowing that Flare would always watch over her, and Flare, though small and young, seemed to understand the importance of their connection. "Tomorrow," Lena whispered, "we'll explore more. We'll learn more about each other and about this amazing planet. But tonight, we rest." Flare chirped softly and curled up beside her, his shimmering scales glowing gently in the moonlight. Lena smiled, closing her eyes. She knew that this was only the beginning of many adventures, and that together they could face anything. As Lena drifted into sleep, she felt a sense of peace. Flare's presence beside her was a reminder that friendship, trust, and courage could form the strongest bonds, even between two beings from completely different worlds. And so, a 6-year-old girl and a tiny, dangerous dragon continued to grow together, learning about the wonders of Zithara and the power of connection. The planet was full of mysteries, but with Flare by her side, Lena felt ready to discover them all. The morning sun rose slowly over Zithara, painting the jagged mountains in soft shades of gold and pink. Lena woke to the gentle rustling of leaves and the warm glow of twin suns. She immediately noticed that Flare was no longer curled at the foot of her bed. Instead, he was perched on a nearby rock, wings slightly spread, his golden eyes scanning the horizon. "Good morning, Flare," Lena whispered, approaching carefully. The tiny dragon chirped softly and jumped down to her side. His scales shimmered brighter than usual, almost as if he could sense something Lena couldn't. Lena frowned slightly. She had learned to trust Flare's instincts. The little dragon had a way of noticing danger before it appeared. "What is it, Flare?" she asked. Flare chirped again, hopping to the edge of the cliff near the outpost and flaring his wings as he looked toward the distant forest. Lena followed his gaze. In the distance, she could just make out movement. shapes moving through the glowing trees. Lena's heart raced. It wasn't the usual Zitharan wildlife. These were humans, but not the kind who came to study. They were the explorers from yesterday, the ones who had been so interested in Flare. "They're back," Lena whispered. Flare chirped a warning, his wings fluttering anxiously. Lena took a deep breath and hugged him close. "Don't worry. We'll be careful together." Her parents were already outside, busy preparing equipment for the day. When they saw Lena and Flare, their expressions shifted from surprise to concern. "Lena," her mother said softly, "those explorers, they might try to take him. We need to protect him." Lena nodded. "I know. Flare and I can handle this. Together." Flare chirped in agreement, nuzzling her hand. He seemed to understand the gravity of the situation, as if he too knew that today would be different. The explorers approached cautiously, their boots crunching on the rocky soil. They were careful not to startle Flare, but Lena could see the eagerness in their eyes. They wanted him. Lena stepped in front of Flare, holding out her small hands. "Flare is my friend," she said firmly. "You cannot take him." The lead explorer, a tall woman with a sharp gaze, stepped forward. "He's rare," she said. "We've been searching for a Zitharan hatchling like him for years. You can't keep him here. He belongs to the world, not to one child." Flare let out a small growl, stepping closer to Lena. He flapped his wings, sending a small gust of wind that made the explorer step back. Lena held onto his tiny claw, feeling a rush of pride. Even though he was small, he was brave, and together they were stronger. "My world is here," Lena said softly but firmly, "and he's with me. You cannot take him." The explorers hesitated. They were trained, experienced, and prepared, but they hadn't counted on the courage of a 6-year-old and the loyalty of a tiny dragon. Lena's parents intervened, speaking calmly about the importance of letting Flare grow safely and freely. The explorers listened, but clearly were not fully convinced. Suddenly, Flare let out a sharp roar, surprising everyone. He leapt into the air, wings spread wide, scales glowing bright gold. Lena grabbed his tiny claws, holding him steady. "It's okay, Flare," she whispered. "We can scare them away without hurting anyone." The explorers stepped back cautiously, realizing that this small dragon was not just an animal. He was intelligent, protective, and connected to Lena in a way that couldn't be broken. After a tense moment, the explorers retreated, leaving the outpost in peace, for now. Lena hugged Flare tightly. "You were amazing," she said. Flare chirped softly and nuzzled her cheek. They had faced danger together, and the bond between them had only grown stronger. That evening, Lena and Flare explored the forest near the outpost, careful to stay hidden from anyone who might return. Flare was excited to stretch his wings and test his skills in the open. He leapt from rock to rock, flapping clumsily but with determination. Lena cheered him on. "You're getting better every day," she said. "Soon you'll be able to fly far and fast." Flare chirped in excitement, his scales glowing a soft blue. He chased after Lena as she ran through the glowing moss, leaping over small streams and dodging strange plants. The bond between them was growing every day, and Lena could feel that Flare was learning not just from her actions, but from her courage and kindness. As night fell, they returned to the outpost. Lena's parents had prepared a small area for Flare, but he didn't want to stay confined. Instead, he curled up near Lena, resting his head on her lap. Lena stroked his scales gently, feeling the warmth of his tiny body. "You'll always be with me, won't you?" she whispered. Flare chirped softly, nuzzling her hand. It was a silent promise, one that Lena felt deep in her heart. Over the next few days, Lena and Flare trained together. She taught him to respond to simple commands, to chase after objects, and to be aware of his surroundings. Flare was quick to learn, and his intelligence amazed everyone at the outpost. The scientists took notes, realizing that Lena had formed a bond with a creature far beyond what anyone had expected. One day, while exploring a nearby canyon, Lena noticed that Flare was unusually quiet. He crouched low, ears perked, eyes scanning the shadows. Lena followed his gaze and saw movement, strange, fast creatures darting through the rocks. "They're predators," Lena whispered. Flare growled softly, flaring his wings. Lena knew they needed to be careful. Together, they navigated the canyon, avoiding the creatures and finding safe paths through the jagged rocks. Flare's instincts were sharp, and Lena learned to trust him completely. At one point, a predator lunged from the shadows. Flare reacted instantly, leaping in front of Lena and letting out a roar that echoed through the canyon. The creature froze, startled by the tiny dragon's courage. Lena ran to Flare's side, holding him close. "You're brave," she said softly. "I'm glad you're with me." Flare chirped, his scales glowing gold, signaling that he was pleased. Lena realized that he wasn't just protecting her because he was trained to. He cared. He understood that she was his friend, and he would do anything to keep her safe. Back at the outpost, Lena's parents were impressed by the way she and Flare worked together. They realized that Flare's intelligence and loyalty were extraordinary, and that Lena had a special gift for understanding creatures that others could not. "Lena," her mother said one evening, "you've done something remarkable. You've formed a bond that could change the way humans and Zitherans interact." Lena smiled, stroking Flare's tiny head. "I just treat him like a friend," she said simply. "That's all it takes." But danger was not gone. The explorers who had tried to take Flare were still on the planet, watching from a distance. They knew that capturing the tiny dragon would not be easy, and they were determined. Lena could sense it, and Flare seemed to feel it too. One night, as Lena slept with Flare curled at her side, she dreamed of glowing eyes in the darkness and sharp claws moving silently. She woke to find Flare alert, wings slightly raised, his body tense. Lena whispered, "It's okay, Flare. We're together. Nothing can hurt us." Together, they listened to the sounds of the forest, learning its patterns and dangers. Flare's presence made Lena feel safe, even in the shadows. She realized that their bond was more than friendship. It was partnership. They were a team, and nothing could break them apart. Days passed, and Lena taught Flare more skills. He learned to recognize danger, respond to her gestures, and even communicate with small noises and wing movements. Their bond grew stronger with each passing day. Lena felt proud, and Flare seemed happy. One evening, Lena and Flare climbed to the top of a high cliff overlooking the valley. The twin suns were setting, casting long shadows over the glowing forest below. Lena held Flare close, watching the beauty of Zithera. "We've faced danger together," she said softly, "and we've grown stronger. I think we can face anything now, Flare." Flare chirped, his wings flaring, and nuzzled her cheek. Lena laughed. She knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. And so, as night fell over the glowing forests and jagged mountains of Zithera, Lena and Flare prepared for the adventures yet to come. The bond between a 6-year-old girl and a tiny, dangerous dragon had grown unbreakable. Together they were ready to face the challenges of the world, stronger, braver, and closer than ever. The morning light on Zithera shimmered across the jagged mountains, filling the valley with a golden glow. Lena woke slowly, feeling Flare curled at her feet. The little dragon's scales reflected the sunlight, casting tiny dancing lights across the walls of her small bedroom. Lena stretched, smiling at her loyal companion. "Good morning, Flare," she whispered. Flare blinked, opening his golden eyes, and chirped softly. Lena reached out, stroking his head. "Ready for another adventure?" Flare chirped in reply, hopping onto her shoulder. Together they stepped outside. The air was crisp, carrying the sweet scent of the glowing plants in the valley. Lena's parents were already preparing their equipment, aware that today would be important. The explorers who had tried to take Flare had not given up. They were still somewhere on the planet, watching, planning their next move. Lena felt a shiver of worry, but also confidence. She knew that Flare was not just a friend, he was a guardian, a partner, and together they could face anything. As they moved toward the forest, Lena noticed small movements in the distance, shapes moving stealthily among the glowing trees. Her heart raced. "Flare," she whispered. "I think they're here." Flare's scales glowed gold, and he let out a low, warning chirp. Lena held his tiny claws, feeling his strength and loyalty. "We'll face them together," she said. Flare chirped again, as if agreeing. The explorers emerged from the shadows, this time more cautious, realizing that capturing Flare would not be easy. They tried to move closer, but Flare leapt into the air, flapping his wings and letting out a sharp roar that echoed through the forest. Lena held his claws, keeping him steady. "Stop!" she called. "Flare and I are not yours to take." The lead explorer hesitated, surprised by the courage of the small girl and the tiny dragon. Flare's glowing scales and fearless stance made it clear that he would not allow anyone to harm Lena. The explorers exchanged worried glances. They had expected a small creature, easy to capture, not a partner who could act with intelligence, strength, and loyalty. Lena's parents stepped forward calmly. "He is not a specimen to be taken," her father said firmly. "Flare is sentient. He has a bond with Lena that cannot be broken. You cannot take him from his home." The explorers paused, realizing that this situation was unlike anything they had faced before. Flare flapped his wings again, creating a gust of wind that scattered small leaves and glowing pollen in all directions. Lena held him tight. "You see?" she said softly. "We're a team. You cannot win against us without understanding that." The explorers slowly backed away, realizing that force would not succeed. Lena and Flare had proven their courage and partnership. It was not a simple human versus alien situation. Flare was intelligent, capable, and loyal. Lena's bravery made him stronger, and his loyalty made her unstoppable. After the explorers retreated, Lena and Flare explored the forest, learning more about the glowing plants and the small creatures that lived there. Flare was playful, chasing after glowing insects and leaping over mossy rocks. Lena laughed, enjoying the joy and freedom that came with having her friend by her side. As they wandered deeper into the forest, Lena noticed something unusual. A series of glowing footprints led to a hidden cave, shimmering faintly in the light. "Flare, do you see that?" she whispered. Flare's golden eyes blinked, and he hopped forward, nudging her gently. Inside the cave, they discovered a small pool of water that reflected the glowing plants above. Lena knelt beside it, noticing that the water shimmered with strange colors, almost as if it were alive. Flare dipped his tiny claws into the pool, and the water reacted, glowing brighter for a moment before returning to normal. Lena gasped. "This place is magical," she said softly. "And it's our secret." Flare chirped happily, rubbing his head against her hand. Lena realized that Zithra was full of wonders that few humans had ever seen, and with Flare she could explore them safely. Days passed, and Lena continued to teach Flare new skills. He learned to recognize her gestures, respond to small commands, and even anticipate her movements. Their partnership grew stronger, and Lena began to realize that Flare's intelligence was extraordinary. He could solve problems, understand danger, and even comfort her when she felt scared. One afternoon, as they explored a valley filled with glowing mushrooms and strange plants, Lena and Flare encountered a larger Zitharan dragon. It was an adult, powerful and majestic, with scales that shimmered like molten gold. Lena froze, unsure of what to do. Flare chirped nervously, but stayed close to her. The adult dragon studied them carefully, sniffing the air. Lena could feel its power, but she also sensed curiosity. Slowly, she spoke softly. "We mean no harm," she said. Flare chirped in agreement. To her amazement, the larger dragon lowered its head slightly, acknowledging Flare. It seemed to recognize the bond between the tiny dragon and Lena. Flare chirped happily, hopping toward the adult dragon who nudged him gently in return. Lena smiled. Their partnership had earned respect, even from the mightiest creatures on Zithera. That night, Lena and Flare returned to the outpost, tired but happy. Lena's parents were waiting, impressed by her courage and the way Flare had grown. "You've done something extraordinary," her mother said. "You've shown that humans and Zitherans can truly understand each other." Lena hugged Flare tightly. "We're a team," she said, "and nothing can change that." Flare chirped softly, resting his head on her shoulder. The following days brought more adventures. Lena and Flare explored hidden valleys, climbed glowing cliffs, and discovered small creatures that no one had ever seen before. Flare's presence made Lena feel safe, and Lena's courage gave Flare confidence. Together, they were unstoppable. Word of their bond spread throughout the outpost. Scientists and visitors came to observe, not to capture, but to learn. They watched in amazement as Lena and Flare communicated with gestures, sounds, and understanding that went beyond words. It was a partnership like no other, a true example of humans and alien creatures working together. One evening, as the twin suns set, Lena and Flare climbed to the top of a high cliff overlooking the valley. The sky was ablaze with color, and the glowing forest below seemed to sparkle like a sea of stars. Lena held Flare close, feeling the warmth of his tiny body. "We've faced danger," she said softly. "We've learned, played, and grown together. I think we can face anything now, Flare." Flare chirped happily, nuzzling her cheek. Suddenly, in the distance, she saw faint lights moving through the forest. The explorers, once again. Lena's heart raced, but she held Flare tightly. "It's okay," she whispered. "We're together. Nothing can hurt us." Flare flared his wings, glowing brightly. Lena realized that their partnership was not just about friendship. It was about courage, intelligence, and trust. The explorers could not succeed because Lena and Flare had something far stronger: understanding and loyalty. As the explorers approached, Flare let out a powerful roar, small but full of determination. Lena raised her hands and Flare flapped his wings, creating gusts of wind that scattered leaves and glowing pollen. The explorers stepped back, realizing once again that force would not win. Lena spoke clearly, her voice strong and confident. "Flare is my friend. We are a team. You cannot take him. We protect each other, and nothing will change that." The explorers hesitated, realizing that the small girl and her dragon were not ordinary. Flare's glowing scales, courage, and loyalty were impossible to ignore. Slowly, the explorers retreated, understanding that this bond was unbreakable. Lena hugged Flare tightly. "We did it," she whispered. Flare chirped softly, nuzzling her cheek. Together, they had faced danger and triumphed. The night fell over Zithera, and Lena and Flare sat on the cliff, looking at the glowing forest below. Lena felt a sense of peace. She knew that the adventures were far from over, but she also knew that together, she and Flare could face anything. Her parents joined them, smiling proudly. "You've shown something remarkable, Lena," her father said. "You've proven that humans and Zitherans can live in harmony, learn from each other, and protect each other." Lena nodded, holding Flare close. "We're a team," she said simply. "And that's all that matters." Flare chirped happily, wings flaring softly as if agreeing. The tiny dragon had grown more than just in size. He had grown in trust, understanding, and courage. And Lena had grown too, learning that kindness, bravery, and loyalty could create bonds stronger than any obstacle. Together, Lena and Flair watched the twin moons rise over the mountains. The valley below shimmered with glowing plants, alien creatures, and the soft light of the night. Lena felt a sense of wonder and excitement for the future. With Flair by her side, there was no limit to what they could discover and achieve. And so, a 6-year-old girl and a tiny, once dangerous dragon became partners for life. Their bond was unbreakable, their courage unmatched, and their adventures had only just begun. Lena had learned that even the smallest human could inspire loyalty, bravery, and trust, and Flair had shown that even the fiercest creature could choose kindness and friendship. Together, they would face the universe, strong, united, and unstoppable. The story of Lena and Flair became legendary on Zithera, a tale of human courage, friendship, and the power of compassion. And as they soared over the glowing forests and jagged mountains, the world seemed brighter, full of possibilities, because a 6-year-old girl had dared to call a dangerous dragon baby cute, and it had never left her side.